God bless America. Hello, everybody. I am the Talk Radio Protege, and this is the Protege program. Welcome back from the weekend. I hope that you enjoyed it. It's time now to dig back into the news. Time to plug back in to the world outside of your comfort zone. And I'm here to bring you the biggest stories from the weekend. There are many this time around. The first of which I wanted to talk about is a shooting that occurred in Texas at a church. And let's get into it. This from the Daily Mail. I'll go through the cliff notes first, and then you can skip ahead if you don't want to hear more details. At least 26 people dead. At least 24 others were wounded. The shooter was one Devin Patrick Kelly, 26, married father, carried out the assault wearing tactical gear, body armor, carrying a assault rifle. It looks, there's a picture of it here. It looks kind of like possibly an AR platform rifle there. We also have some details. The shooter was confronted by a neighbor armed with a rifle, who shot the gunman. The gunman fled in his vehicle. He was pursued by the shooter, or the counter shooter, I should say, and another bystander. He lost control of the car, had an accident, was found dead inside. It's unclear how he died, possible suicide. Details on some of the victims. So, obviously this is a terrible tragedy. We're going to have a lot more, I say we're going to have a lot more calls for gun control, but that really depends on how much the media covers this story. We have a white shooter attacking a white church, so they can't play the race card. They can't go with the Islamic card. They can still cover this from the gun control angle, but it's possible that they will not cover this very much. We're not going to be watching the video. There's a lot of pictures here that I didn't take the time to download. This individual was posted photos of the gun on Facebook and lived at his parents' home. There are more details. This from the Daily Mail. There are more details at CBS News where they talk more about the shooter in particular and less about the events as they unfolded. Now, from this story, again over at CBS, the shooter was apparently involved in a domestic situation, altercation between himself and his mother-in-law before the massacre, and he'd been sending threatening texts. This is from the sheriff, I believe, Texas Department of Public Safety Regional Director Freeman Martin. Wouldn't detail the text, but it wasn't related to race or religion. Officials have previously stated Kelly had no apparent links to terrorist groups. So this could be another situation similar to the Vegas shooting, where we could have an investigation that quietly drifts away into the news cycle, and we don't end up hearing more about what went on. This is entirely possible. If the case is that there's no overt motive, my only offering to you is that evil doesn't need a motive. A person that wants to do things to hurt people, that wants to do bad things, that wants to do evil things, sometimes does evil for the sake of being evil. We see this sometimes. Stories are told in and by stories I don't mean actual events. I mean stories told on television, procedural cop shows, investigative thrillers, those types of things. People tell stories about evil people that do evil things for the sake of doing evil things, not necessarily for the sake of scratching any itch or anything like that. I've already spent more time on that story than I think it deserves at this point. So let's move on. This one is interesting to me, not so much the details, but just the headline. If what's going on here is true, these types of moves, apparently one particular Saudi prince has been rounding up Saudi Arabian royals, ministers, and businessmen, and placing them under arrest, described by this apparently Saudi Attorney General as Phase 1. So we could be seeing more roundups, more arrests coming in the future. These are the kinds of moves that huge regime changes are made of. These are the types of moves where political power is solidified, and one particular individual emerges from the situation with a lot more power than he began with. I'm not an expert in history, but I can imagine that if this is the kind of move that the Saudi prince that's involved, that's orchestrating this entire thing, if he emerges with a lot of power, it wouldn't surprise me if history records that this is one of the times where a person that went on to be involved in a big war solidified their power. This just smells to me like a move that's being made by a person who wants power and who wants it for nefarious reasons. This could obviously not be the case, but this just, as a person that I think of myself not as an expert, but definitely as a connoisseur of sorts of history, this seems like a pivotal moment that people need to be paying attention to, and I don't think it's going to get the attention that it deserves. Moving right along, the Democrats were rocked last week by Donna Brazil's book that's being released. Early copies are being reported on already, and now, in light of the somewhat Democrat civil war that's been going on, I found this story from McClatchy, D.C. I guess this is like a blog or something. Democrats are desperate to avoid a culture war with Trump in 2018. Now, again, not a history expert, not an expert in U.S. elections, but if memory serves, I've heard it said before that when elections center around culture, around the cultural movements and around what's going on in the culture at the moment, the Republican candidate tends to win. That's at least in the presidential elections. And when the election centers around the economy and what needs to be done economically in the country, the Democrat tends to win. And that just rings true as we see that Democrats from this headline want to avoid a culture war. I assume it's this McClatchy person that's writing this well, no, Rory, it's right there. How did I miss it? Apparently, as Rory outlines here, Democrats have seen that Trump knows what he's doing when he engages in the culture war, that it's been bad for Democrats. They talk about the NFL culture war that's been going on, and given the way that the cultural entanglements Trump has gotten himself into have gone so far, it doesn't surprise me that Democrats want to avoid a culture war with Trump. But given the way that the economy is going right now, jobs numbers are strong, stock market is strong, all signs are golden for the economy right now. I don't think that Democrats necessarily have a leg to stand on when it comes to the economy. I think that when people go to the polls and they ask the question, am I better off now than I was the last time I elected this congressman, I think the answers are going to be crystal clear on that front. Moving along with more political news, this headline from InfoWars catalogs the various tweets and other headlines that went into this thing that happened. Trump, I think he began the weekend leaving to go to Asia, and he apparently fed some fish in a koi pond with the Japanese president, and the mainstream media lost their collective minds. Now, as I assume this video shows, you can find it on YouTube. The Guardian uploaded a 50-second clip that shows everything that you need to see. And the media reacted to Trump pouring his the fish food into the pond, and they go on and on about how the two men were supposed to be spooning these the food into the pond. They're not supposed. He wasn't supposed to dump it. This is considered, I suppose, culturally insensitive and a bad move. But you go and watch the video, and the Japanese prime minister, president, whatever he is, actually empties his box first, and then Trump dumps his out. I think Trump actually did one more spoonful before dumping his box into the lake. And some of the commentators over on that YouTube video at The Guardian still took issue with the way that Trump fed the fishes. It just goes to show you that they're really scraping the bottom of the barrel when it comes to criticizing Trump. Especially, I suppose Trump hasn't been that active on Twitter while he's been away in Asia. When nothing's going on, the media is going to find a way to criticize the president. Moving now on to some more pressing matters. We have our second assault on a Republican congressman in 1 year. I looked... I tried to do a search for times that political figures have been attacked, specifically Republicans, and the only times I can remember is there was a congresswoman that was attacked by a mentally unstable individual at one of her rallies all the way back in 2007. And there hasn't been one since. There have been, since 2007, no attacks. So one attack in 10 years, and now we've had 2 attacks in less than 1 year. We had the attack on the Republican congressmen while they were doing some baseball practice for congressional baseball. And now Senator Rand Paul has been assaulted, apparently by one of his neighbors. I guess this is a picture of the man here. Yeah, Renee Bocher, however you say that. Paul was tackled by Mr. Bocher, and so he suffered broken ribs. These displaced fractures, as I understand, is a severe injury and threatens the life of the individual with the broken ribs. So, very strange, I think, that that Mr. Bocher attacked the senator. But it's one of those stories that that's the possible ideology motivations of the attacker are going to be overlooked. We can't, of course, attribute progressivism or liberalism or the media's rhetoric or Democrats' rhetoric to this man's actions. It was just a one-off. It was a lone wolf type thing. Don't let your lying eyes fool you type situations. Now, moving on, this is what I really wanted to talk about. There's not a lot of details here, but I'm happy to see that amendments are coming. There's revisions coming to the tax bill. I just hope that they're the good kind of revisions that that we do need to see. As Amanda Becker reports, revisions have begun to the House bill, the draft of which was unveiled last week by Republicans in the House. The Senate apparently has begun drafting their bill, and some of the revisions that have been talking about are the change to the repeal of the deduction for state and local income tax payments. Well, apparently, okay, good. As I reported last week, those deductions were going to be limited to $10,000 a year, and we might be talking about expanding that. Now, as a person who wants government to get as little as they need and no more, I'm in favor of giving a tax break to individuals based on how much they paid in state, local, and property taxes. But one thing I didn't realize is that this is an enormous loophole to high state taxes states like California and New York. It gives them the leeway to tax their citizens at higher rates than they would normally object to, because they're getting that tax write-off on their federal return. So I'm kind of conflicted over this one. I think there does need to be a cap. I have no idea where that cap ought to be. Something that I do not hope gets amended is the capital gains tax rate, the business income tax rate. I thought I saw somewhere that they were talking about changing that. Yes, there it is. I hope that they do. I hope they don't change the 20% tax rate. I hope they, if anything, I hope that they end up reducing these rates. Yes. So that's all the revisions that they're talking about at this time in the House. I'll continue to update you as this tax plan moves forward. I am hopeful for a good conservative tax plan that gets passed through both the House and the Senate, that is going to bring some real economic relief, not just to the middle class, but the hiring class, the working class, to everyone across the board. That's going to do it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on these stories. Also, let me know if you enjoy these videos where I mash a bunch of things together and it ends up being a little longer, or if you'd rather see a video where this was 6 or 7 topics. Would you rather see one video that ends up being however long this one is, 25 minutes or so? Well, just 20 minutes on this one. Would you rather see one 20-minute video that covers 7 topics, or 7 videos of varying lengths that cover those topics individually? Let me know in the comments. As always, hope you leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Until next time, have a great evening, good night, and God bless.